There we go. We are recording. All right.
Okay.
So the first thing I wanted to show everybody when we started was how to get on Google Classroom, because everything you're going to need, including everything we're going to talk about today, is on Google Classroom. So did you get the email? You should have gotten some sort of email that invited you to Google Classroom.
Okay, let me see if I'm sure I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the email. That's how I got on here, right?
Well, no, there was
So,
2 emails. I sent you one with a link to this meeting, and then there should have been one where I invited you to.
yeah, I got it right here. Class invite, Biology 101, Fall
Perfect.
2022.
Yep. Yeah. So go ahead and accept that.
Join that?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, good. There we go. So now that you're there, I'm going to pull it up on my end and show you a couple things. First of all, I sent you a link. Obviously that's how you and I are meeting right
Shoot.
now.
Yeah.
You see right here to the left, you see where it says join?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the future, whenever you need to meet me, this is how you do it.
Okay,
so,
that's pretty simple.
Yeah, so there's no need.
Okay.
You don't want to save that link that I gave you, because sometimes that link basically dies and I have to refresh this and there's a new link.
Okay, so you'll sorry, buddy. You'll send out a link every time, correct?
Actually, that's what I'm saying is nope.
Okay.
Now that you're on Google Classroom, I don't need to send it out every time. You just always come to here to Google Classroom under Stream, and you just click that button.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all you need to do.
Okay, that's pretty simple.
All right. So that being said, let's talk about the syllabus. If you go up here to the top, you can see you've got 4 options: Stream, Classwork, People, Grades. If you click Classwork,
okay,
and then you scroll down, and you can see right here where it says Syllabus, right? And another way, if you're having problems finding it, is on your keyboard, hit Control F, and you can see it up at the top right. There's a search option, so you could just type in syllabus.
Okay.
And then it brings you to it. So anyway, that's where it is. Here's the videos from previous semesters you can watch where I talk about the syllabus. But let's open up the syllabus and talk about it really quickly here. So again, like I said earlier, this is being recorded.
Okay.
So it's not just for the sake of you, it's also for the sake of anybody else who might want to watch this video. So as I go through this, I might say something like, hey, do you have any questions? And even if you yourself understand something, if you can think of a question that you think a classmate might have, feel free to ask it, at least for their sake.
Okay.
But anyway, let's scroll down here. You already know this because we've communicated via email, but my name is Vasilios Dianellos. I know it's a mouthful, and I don't care what you call me as long as it makes sense, like Mr. V or Professor D.
I call you. I'm cool with Mr. V because that's what I used to call my math teacher in high school.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, as long as I know what to listen for and it makes sense, right? So if you call me like James, it wouldn't make sense, and I wouldn't know to listen for it. So yeah.
Okay, Mr. V or Professor V is what
there
we'll
you
call
go. And this is my phone number. This is the number to my office. But my office phone is forwarded to my cell phone, so you can call me whenever you need.
That's awesome.
Even when it's outside of office hours, just call that number. And I was telling your classmates, I don't care what time you call, because when I'm going to sleep, I just turn my ringer off. So I don't care if you're studying, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have a question. Doesn't hurt to call. If I'm awake, I'll answer it. I probably won't be. I'll probably be asleep, and it won't disturb me. But if I'm awake and willing to take the call, I will. So never be hesitant to call me anytime, any day. Just understand, if it is a crazy hour, chances are you won't reach me, but you might.
Okay.
So, moving forward, this is my email address. And again, you know that because we've been communicating via email.
Mm-hmm.
My office is 131 Hamblin Hall. So that's on the first floor of Hamblin. If you walk in through the front door, if you walk in through the back door, technically you're in the basement. So it's the story above that.
Okay. Now I got a question, Mr. V.
Yes.
Earlier it says right. Oh, okay, that's your office hours. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Nope, no problem. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay.
And that is on the side of the building that's closer to the highway than the library, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
All right. The biology department office is 101 Hamblin. So that's like right when you first walk in the front door of Hamblin, that's that office right there to the right. And you can also call that office using this number. And the person you would get in touch with when you do that, her name is Miss Tina Sanchez. She's kind of like our go-to person for the biology department, actually for the whole college. So if you have any issues with me, I would obviously hope you would address them with me. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's the person you talk to, and she'll direct you to the right person.
Okay.
And then also there's her email address too if you need that.
Okay, I got you.
Now, office hours. These are the times where you are guaranteed to reach me. So
Okay.
I am in my office every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 a.m. to 10:40 a.m. You can meet me in person, or like I showed you earlier, you can go to Google Classroom and click this right here, because I will not only be in person, but I'll also be online. So you can reach me either way.
Okay.
And again, like I said, that's when you're guaranteed to find me. I'm more than willing, as you can tell right now, to meet outside of these hours. That's just when you're guaranteed. So if
I can call you. I can call you anytime when needed as well.
Exactly. Call, meet, whatever, and I'll do my best to accommodate anybody's request.
Okay.
All right. The other important part is we meet every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 8:50 in H205. So that's the second floor of Hamlin. Should be easy to find. That is without exception. Well, I shouldn't say it's without exception. It's almost without exception. Sometimes things come up, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about school closures, things like that. But for the most part, without exception, we will meet every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 8:50. And then every week, including this week, we also have every Wednesday from 12 to 1:50 in the same room. So make sure you have your schedule cleared off for all these times. Sometimes we might get off early in lecture. Sometimes we might get off early in lab. But for the most part, just plan on being there the whole time just in case.
Okay.
All right. This part, you can read this yourself. That's your first assignment, actually, is to read the syllabus. So you just read this, read the objectives, read the outcomes. I'm not going to waste your time talking about it because we're also going to talk a little bit about it tomorrow when we actually start chapter 1. But it's like I told your classmates on Monday. Basically, this class is just meant to teach you the basics, principles of biology. You're not going to be an expert. It's just so, in your adult life, like let's say you get diagnosed with a disease and now you've got to do some research to figure out what that disease is about. Well, after this class, you'll have a good solid foundation to start from. You won't be starting from scratch. So, textbook. This is a 100 level class, so I definitely test and teach out of the textbook. Make sure you get the textbook. You can see here that it's the 7th edition. I personally think you can get away with getting the 6th edition, which will probably be really, really cheap. Just make sure if you do get an older edition, you pay even closer attention to my lectures, because if something I say is different than what the textbook says, you're going to want to go with what I say versus what the textbook says, because whatever I said came out of this newest edition, and that's what you're going to be tested on.
Okay.
All right. So no questions so far?
No, sir.
All right. Principles. The other book is Principles of Biology Laboratory Manual. You do not have to do anything for that. All of that can be found right here in the Google Classroom. Every week, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more here in a second. But every week, like I said, we have a lab. You can find it here under the lab section. And you can see right here, scroll down all the way to the bottom. We have, where are you at? Right here, lab 1. So everything you need is going to be right here. Not only that, and you didn't get this because you just joined the Google Classroom, but earlier today I sent out a message that had this link on it. So I sent out this message, and it was a long one, but it says right here, second, we have lab tomorrow. Normally you'd be required, well, you can see it right here. So in this message, I gave them a link that brought them to the lab worksheet. So there we go. Moving forward. Any questions so far?
No. So I need to have that lab worksheet done before tomorrow.
Good question. I'll actually come back to that when we talk about lab. That is a great question.
Okay.
I'll come back to it. And this part right here, grade distribution, point values, I'll actually come back. I'll come back to that. Here's an important one. Due dates. You can see officially in writing in the syllabus, it says late work will not be accepted after the due date. So that's the official policy. Unofficially, I will accept late work for half credit. So, if you miss the due date for the lab, and I'll talk about that more later, but the due dates are Friday. That's a cutoff date. If you miss it, well, you can still do it for half credit anytime after that.
You said the due dates for lab or Friday?
Yeah, and I'll come back to that, but yeah.
Okay.
I'll explain that more in more detail here in a second. But yeah, the point here is when we're talking about due dates, the official policy is that nothing is accepted late. The unofficial policy is I will accept late stuff for half credit.
Okay, got you.
And the reason I have a difference between official and unofficial is because historically some students have taken advantage of the fact that I accept late work. So if it gets to that point, if any student starts doing that, then I will just say, well, look, the syllabus says late work is not accepted, and I might implement that again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. It's just to make sure that nobody's taking advantage of it. So the unofficial policy isn't so you can slack off. It's so, if occasionally you have an emergency, you're not completely out of luck. All right. So any questions about the due dates?
No.
All right. Tests. This is pretty simple. There's a lot written, but it's pretty simple. Basically, there's 4 exams throughout the semester. The first 3 they're not comprehensive, right? So, and each one, basically we're going to cover 3 chapters and then we're going to take the first exam and that'll cover those 3 chapters.
Okay.
Then we'll cover 3 new chapters. And then the second exam will cover only those 3 chapters. And then we'll cover 3 more chapters. And the third exam will cover only those 3 chapters. And then finally, we'll get to the 4th final exam. That one will cover 3 new chapters, but it will also cover all the other stuff. So the first 3 are not comprehensive. The last one is.
Now, is there say we take the first 3, second 3, third 3, and then on our 4th one we take the new 3, but we have to go all the way up the previous chapters. What I was trying to say is there's a way we could study off the other exams.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, and that's exactly what I was about to say.
Okay.
So for the final exam, well, let me back up. The first 3 exams are going to be about 50 questions apiece. They're all going to be multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
And you already have a study guide. So let me bring it back up here. If you go to, again, the Google Classroom and go into classwork, each chapter has a study guide. So chapter 1, PowerPoint, lectures, study guide. Here we go. So you can click on this. Whoops. You can click on this and do the study guide. So you'll get points for this, and I'll come back to that a little bit later, but you can do these study guides. And when I write your exams, what I do is I take these questions and I reword them a little bit. So for every exam you take, you will have some version of the questions for the most part. There might be a few exceptions, but generally speaking, I use these questions throughout your exam. Does that make sense?
Yes. So can we use our study guide during the exam or no?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No, that's a good question. And I'll actually get to that here in a second too.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's how the first 3 exams are going to work. Like I said, they're going to be written by me rewording the study guides.
Okay.
Now the final exam, to go back to what you were asking earlier, half of those questions, like I said, will come from the first 3 exams. And for those, I'm not even going to reword them. I'm going to pick them directly from the first 3 exams. I'm going to copy and paste them into the final. So when you study for the final, you're going to study the last 3 chapters and you're going to study your first 3 exams.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So yes, going back to your other great question about, can you use the study guides during the exam? So the exams, unless otherwise requested by any student, are going to be held online. So you do it at home.
Oh, okay.
Do it wherever you want. What'll happen is on exam day, you just keep an eye on your email, and it'll automatically post. So let's say it's next Monday, which it's not, but let's say it's next Monday at 8 a.m. You'll get an email. They'll have a link, and it'll take you to the exam, and they're going to look pretty much just like I showed you here with the study guides. It's going to have this kind of feel to it. So that's another good thing about using the study guides is you're going to be familiar with how these things work.
Okay.
So yes, they're going to be about 50 questions apiece, and you have about 50 minutes to do it. And the reason I do that is because it's not supposed to be an open book test. I don't want you using notes or study guides or books or the internet or anything like that. So when you only have about 1 minute per question, you don't have time to look things up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, if anybody ever wants more time to take an exam, if we can work something out where we're meeting like you and I are right now, and if I can see you and I can see your screen and I can hear you and I can ensure that you're not taking an open book exam, then I'm willing to give you as much time as you need.
Okay. That's awesome.
The only reason there's a 50-minute time limit is to keep people
Keep
from
people from looking at study guides or in their books.
exactly. So
Okay.
if you want more time, you
Just
just have to
ask.
let me know beforehand.
Okay.
All right. Independent work. This one's important. And this is the one that kind of confuses people. Basically speaking, independent work is a written assignment. You have it all semester until December 4th to turn in as many papers as you can until you hit 100 points. So I'm trying to think of where to even start. A paper, you know, they're going to be Times New Roman, 12 font, double spaced. So it's not like a lot. Basically, a full page is worth about 10 points. Or if you look at it a different way, each line is worth about 0.45 points. So there is no minimum or maximum. You can write a paper as short as you want. Like, for example, I don't know, you might just be, you said you're an athlete, right? Student athlete?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say one day, after practice, you're more sore than you usually are. And you're like, oh, I wonder why my muscles are so sore. You could write a paper about it. And it could be literally it could be literally this short. You could just write something and say, I was after practice, my right deltoid was very sore. I was wondering why. I looked it up, and according to this source, it probably is this, that, or the other thing.
Okay, so on my independent work, anything I write about, it just has to be a biology related.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you could, like I said, in that example, you could just be answering a question that you just think of, right? Think of a question and go answer it. And it could be, again, it could just be a few sentences, or you could write a few pages.
Sorry. Now I can look it up on anything. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not a certain doesn't have to be out of the book. It doesn't have to be, you know what I'm saying? Like
exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as it's biology related, you can look it up anywhere, because in some cases you might find some really horrible source and not know it's horrible. So that'd be a good learning moment. You'll turn it in, you'll provide your source, and then I'll read it and I'll come back to you. You won't lose points for it, but I'll say, hey, good job on the paper. But just so you know that the source you use is a bunch of garbage, and you'll learn from that. So it'll be good. So the point here is, again, I want to reiterate, your goal is to hit 100 points. And the beauty of this is, it doesn't matter, if you turn in a paper and you didn't get as many points as you thought you should have, that's okay, because there is no maximum number of papers you can turn in. You can just keep turning stuff in until you hit 100 points.
That's awesome. Makes it a little bit easier, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too. And also you should be, doing it throughout the semester. So yeah, that's the goal. Hit 100 points. And also, if you get anything over 100 points, that's going to be extra credit.
Okay.
So that can just boost your grade. Extra credit helps. Another thing, this is really specific or really relevant to you and any other student athlete. You know how sometimes you have to bring sheets where I have to write down your grade?
Yes.
Right. So because of that, technically, again, you have until December 4th to hit at 100 points, but I have to give you some sort of grading in between then. So technically, you need 7.2 points per week, right? And again, it doesn't really matter if you don't hit that. You should, but it doesn't matter as long as you hit 100 points by December 4th. But when I fill out that grade sheet, I'm calculating your grade at that moment, then that's the benchmark I'm looking for, 7.2 points per week.
Okay.
All right. Yes. All right. So that's independent work. Another thing about independent work, like I said, it's mainly a writing assignment, but there's other stuff you can do. Like I already said, you can do these study guides. Each one that you do is worth 2 points. And then there's that thing that I posted earlier today, has all kinds of stuff you can do. Let's see. There's a lab you can do for independent work. You can do this. You can click this little thing, and it just asks you questions about yourself. Where are you from? What's your major? You can get points for doing that. And then here's the fun part, I think. Where is it at? There's a list of videos. Here we go. If you click this, there's a list of videos you can watch, documentary. Okay. And if you watch them and answer questions, you can get points for that too.
Okay.
The idea here is, it's basically like choose your own homework. Because I want you to find something that you're interested in when it comes to biology, because I'm going to teach you the stuff that you have to know, but I'm hoping you'll look into something that actually is interesting to you.
Okay.
All right. So any questions about independent work?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. That reminds me. The one last thing I should tell you about independent work is how to submit it. And that too, that thing that I sent out today at 11:54 p.m., it tells you. So make sure you read through that. It's
Okay.
here somewhere.
I'll
Made
go
a
back
video.
more. Okay.
Let's see, independent work, independent work, lectures, writing assignment. Yeah. So again, if you go here, you click this, and then this is me showing you how to write independent work. So there you go.
Okay.
All right, moving forward, if you don't have any questions. School and course policies. All right, school closings. So here's the deal. There are no school closings as far as I'm concerned. So if there's a snow or there's a power outage, what we'll do instead is you'll meet, again, you'll go to the Google Classroom and you click here and we're going to have online class.
Okay.
So like, if there's another big outbreak of COVID and they say, all right, we're not coming to class or we're not coming to campus, then that's where we're going to meet.
Okay.
All right. And I'm actually going to come back to that here in a second. There's also some more exceptions to when we can have online lectures, but I'll come back to that. Again, we already talked about late work. I don't need to mention it again. Student expectations. You're expected to participate. Like when you're in class, make sure you're at the very least paying attention to what I'm saying. Even better would be if you're asking questions and interacting with me, but you're not forced to do that. Just at the very least, make sure you're paying attention. Get your earbuds out of your ears, get your phone out of your face, spend that time paying attention.
As you should.
Again, attend the lectures and labs. Here we go. This is important. Attendance. And I've already hinted at this with the email. You get attendance points. So every time you go to class, it's 2.4 points. If you show up late, it's 1.2. If you leave early, it's 1.2. But a full credit for showing up to class is 2.4 points. We meet 44 times in this semester. So if you multiply 2.4 by 44, you'll see that that's actually 105.6 points. But attendance itself is only worth 100 points. So that tells you two things. First of all, if you are able to attend every single lecture, you're going to have extra credit. That'll help.
Okay.
Another thing is, if you happen to miss two classes, then you're okay. You can still earn the full 100 points, even if you're absent twice.
Okay.
All right. Another thing, and this is the exception that I was talking about earlier as far as attendance is concerned. Every time we have lecture, even when it's in person, I'm going to try to be here online and, broadcasting it and recording it. So if you wake up and you're feeling a little bit sick, we've got COVID out there, so you are not forced to come to class. If you don't feel like coming to class, join us online instead.
Okay.
I don't need any explanation. You don't need to write me an email and say, I wasn't feeling good, so I joined online instead. You don't need to do that. Just make sure you click and join online. I don't need an explanation. You're an adult. I don't care if you're just tired because it's a Monday and you had a big weekend and just didn't feel like waking, don't feel like coming into campus. That's up to you. You're an adult. So if you feel like joining online instead of in person, you can do that. I don't need an explanation.
Okay.
And another thing, and hoping you guys will like this, students usually do. If for some reason, again, maybe you're sick and you just can't wake up in time to join online, another thing I'll do is I will post, like I said, I record my lectures. So if you can't join online, send me an email and just say, hey, sorry, I missed class. And then I'll send you an email back and say, okay, here's what you need to do to make up for it. And I'll send you a video.
Okay.
So that's how that works. Another thing is when I send you the link to the video, I'm also going to send you probably a bunch of questions that you have to answer while you're watching the video to prove that you watched it. So again, the easier thing to do is to show up to class, but if you miss it and want to watch the video instead, you can do that. You'll just have to jump through more hoops. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing is too, that's my goal. My goal is to record every lecture and be able to share it with you. However, as we now know from already day one, on Monday, I tried to record my lecture and it didn't work. So even though I'm allowing you to watch the video instead, and I'm allowing you to attend online, sometimes it might not work out for you. In which case, you're just out of luck, right? Because nowhere in the syllabus does it say that you can be online I'm just saying unofficially you can be online, and unofficially I'll try to provide you with this stuff. But if it doesn't work, then you're just absent and you miss out on the points.
Okay, so pretty much show up.
Yeah, pretty much. And also you'll probably get more. You'll probably get a little bit of extra credit if you're there on purpose or in person. But
Okay.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right, so yeah, that's the thing about attendance. But yeah, make sure you read the textbook. Again, it's a 100 level course, so I teach and test out of the textbook. Ideally, like you should read chapter 1 before we meet tomorrow, and take notes for things that you don't understand. Right, so read the thing, jot down really quick, even if it's just the page number. Like, oh, I didn't understand this. That way, when I give the lecture, you can say, once we get to that portion of the chapter, you can say, hey, I didn't really understand this. Can you explain it again?
Okay.
All right. This is a really big one because I utilize Google Classroom so much. Make sure you regularly check your email. And again, this goes, the biggest thing for that would be the online lectures. So for example, if one of my kids wakes up sick, I'm probably going to send you guys an email and say, look, we're not meeting in person for class today. It's all going to be online, because I don't want to run the risk of them having COVID and then me bringing it to you guys.
Yep. Understand that.
Yeah. So make sure you check your emails before you come to class, just in case there's some sort of emergency and class is being held online.
I've actually never had it, but knock on wood.
Right. I've had it and I've had my vaccinations.
I've never had any of it or vaccinated.
Wow, you're lucky. All right, COVID-19 statement. You can just read that on your own. This is something that the university requires everybody to put in their syllabus, so I'm not going to go through it because it's on every other syllabus. So read it. Let me know if you have questions, or let this person, Mr. Davenport, let him know if you have any questions.
Okay.
Lab. We're almost to the end of this meeting here. Lab, I'm going to talk about in more detail tomorrow when we actually meet for lab. But again, like I said, it's every Wednesday in H205 from 12 to 150. Make sure your schedule is clear every week from 12 to 150. Like I said, sometimes we might get out of there early, but just in case, you should plan on being there that whole time.
Okay.
Despite the fact that we're meeting in person, like I've already shown you here, all the paperwork, everything you're going to turn in is online. So we're going to meet in person to do this lab. Where are you at? This lab right here. All right. So we're going to meet in person to do this lab 1, but this is what you're going to fill out. So even though we're meeting in person, you're going to fill this out online. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So tomorrow, or actually whenever we meet for lab, I highly recommend bringing your own computer so you can just do this fill this in as we do the lab. But if you don't want to do that, just at least make sure you have scrap paper so you can, write down these answers, and then go home.
So tomorrow we're just going over the answers?
But tomorrow we're going to do an experiment.
Okay.
And if you go ahead and read this document once you and I get off this meeting, go ahead and read the document so you know what we're getting into.
Okay.
But then, we're going to do an experiment. You can see some of it here. We're going to fill in some data. You're going to answer some questions about that data. And again, all this needs to be done. All these answers need to be, all these questions need to be answered before you leave lab before you leave lab tomorrow. So again, bring scrap paper or bring your computer.
Okay.
All right. That brings me to the due dates for lab. So as you asked earlier, as I mentioned earlier, the cutoff date is technically Friday. Yet I just told you that this needs to be done before you leave lab tomorrow, right? So that might not make sense. But what I mean by that is you need to fill out, submit all your stuff before you leave lab. But, and this is where it gets good, I'm going to try to grade it as soon as I can. And the cutoff date is on Friday. So let's say you turn your stuff in, Wednesday afternoon. I grade it and get it back to you Thursday morning, and you see what you missed. You can correct it for full credit as long as you have it done before Friday at midnight.
Wow. All right.
So there's no reason to perform poorly on a lab. As long as you get things turned in early, you can still fix it. And this isn't a test, so you're not on your own. So when I give you your grade back and you can see what you missed, we can meet online. You can say, all right, can you please explain me why this is wrong and how I can fix it? And I will do that.
Okay.
All right.
I've actually I think I've never done a lab, actually. I've always been in different classes.
Okay, well, this would be hopefully a new and fun experience. Some of them are more fun than others, admittedly.
Okay.
There will also be one lab report. We're going to cross that bridge when we get there, but you're going to have to write one lab report about the photosynthesis and respiration lab. I'm going to teach you how to write a lab report. I'm going to give you a rubric that shows you how you're going to be graded. You're going to have not a study guide, but a step-by-step instructions on how to write the lab report. So again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But let's talk about the points. The whole course, as I'm about to talk about later, is worth 1,000 points, and the lab is worth 300. So that means if somehow you were to score 100% on all the exams and 100% on attendance and 100% on independent work, even if you do all that and then don't do a single lab, the highest grade you can have is 700 points, which is a C. So that just shows you how important lab is.
Okay.
Now, each lab, each week that we meet is worth 20 points. So that's 15 points for doing the lab itself and filling out that worksheet. And also, you get 5 points for filling out what's called a pre-lab. We're not going to do a pre-lab this week because obviously this is the first week and you haven't had a chance. But moving forward, these pre-lab questions are due every Sunday.
Okay.
So the point here, what you need to do is for all the labs is you read all the introductions, then you answer the pre-lab questions. It's supposed to prepare you for the upcoming lab. And again, it's due every Sunday.
Okay.
And it is very similar to the lab itself because like I said, as long as you turn it in early, if I get you your grade back, you still have time to fix any mistakes you've made as long as it's before the due date.
Okay.
All right, almost done. Yeah, so again, every time we meet, it's worth 20 points because it's 5 for the pre-lab, 15 for the actual lab. And again, the lab report itself is worth 20 points. So basically that's worth 1 week's worth of lab. So any questions about lab?
No.
Okay. Most important thing, because I'm giving you a lot of information and I'm giving it to you quickly. The most important thing is just make sure you're there at 12 o'clock on Wednesday. Anything else, any confusion you might have, I can clear it up because we'll all be there together. So just make sure, if anything, just remember that. Be there at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, and all these other details can be re-explained to you if needed.
Okay.
All right. The second to last thing we'll talk about here is the tentative schedule. Basically, the pattern goes like this. A chapter per week and then an exam. A chapter per week and then an exam. So on and so forth. That's generally how it's going to go.
Okay.
But honestly, these first few chapters, I don't know, maybe 1 through 5, go really quickly. And then maybe 6 through 8 go a little bit slower. And then I'd say probably 9 through 20 go really, really slow. So probably what's going to happen is, let me pull it back up. Sorry. Most likely, as you can see here, we're scheduled to have the first exam on the week of September 5th. Most likely, it'll probably be a little bit before that. It's probably going to take a full week to do chapter 2 and a full week to do chapter 3. So again, this is all tentative. The only thing that's close to being set in stone is the lab. So you can know by looking at the date what the lab is probably going to be that week.
Okay.
All right. And the last thing to talk about here that I told you I'd come back to is the points. So again, the whole course is worth 1,000 points. So 900 and up is an A, 800 to 900 is a B, so on and so forth. But what I wanted to reiterate here is some of the things I've already talked about. So independent work might seem like a pain. This might seem like extra work, but when you think about it, it's just a way to boost your grade. So let's say you finish the grade. Let's say you finish the course with a 500. That's an F, right? If you finish with a 500, that's an F. But if you do all your independent work, that's 600. That means you passed. So you have you have the ability just from independent work alone to make sure you pass. Or even a bigger, I don't want to say bigger, a different example would be attendance too. All you have to do is show up and you get 100 points throughout the semester. But these two things that are completely in your control, that's 200 points right there. So you could end the class with a 400, which is a really low F. But just by showing up and just by doing your independent work, that's 600. And again, that would mean you would pass. So that's
Okay.
keep all that in mind. So basically, your grade is in your hands. The biggest excuse I get from people is they say they're not good at science or they're not good at testing. But the two things I would say to that is you'll notice tests are only worth half of your overall points. They're only worth 500. And the other thing is I've given you access to all the study guides, right? So it really makes me sad when someone says that they're not good at testing, but then they don't even do the study guides. Like, you can't tell me you're not good at testing when you didn't even do the bare minimum to prepare for the test. So I guess that's it. Just make sure, show up, read the book, do the study guides, do the work. I've only had, I think, one student, maybe two, my entire time teaching that was close to failing and also tried. Usually almost everybody who fails my class is because they didn't try. And I'm not judging, because maybe they had something going on in their life, but for whatever it was, they weren't putting enough effort into this course. So just make sure you put in an effort, and that should be it.
Okay, that's awesome, Mr. B. I appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. You are now all caught up. Just like I said, make sure now that you're on Google Classroom, go here to the stream and just read this first announcement. It's long, but it's important.
Okay. And I need to have some of that lab work filled out, those questions for tomorrow.
You don't need to, only because it's the first week. Just make sure it would help, because it'll, you'll probably get out of the lab quicker the more you have done before you get in there.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely take a look. That way you know what you're getting into tomorrow. And obviously, if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay. Now, is the textbook is online as well, right? Like you apply the textbook for a little bit.
Oh no, I wish I could do that. The textbook itself is not online. The textbook you need to purchase.
I can purchase it where?
I mean, the bookstore sells it, but really,
I usually, you know what e-check is?
Yep, this right here.
E-check, I don't know. My mom has it. My mom was a big online and OU, but
yeah,
you can just rent it for a certain amount of time. You know what I'm talking about? That's probably what I'm gonna do instead.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do, however you need to get it, rent it, buy it, paperback, electronic version. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Just do whatever you got to do to get it.
All right, that works.
So this link I gave you, you don't have to buy it from this link, but that gives you all the information. If you want to get it from somewhere else, this gives you all the information you need: the ISBN number, the authors, all that.
Okay, that's awesome.
All right.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. B.
No problem. Have a good day.
You too.